it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 610th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Nancy Wolf, who happens not to be here today again. I hope, she says that she will probably be in next time. And I hope she will be. We're starting this show with news on Thursday, January 30th. And bringing it up for a week to Wednesday, February 5th. Today is the 6th, the day that I'm recording this. Energy Week is made up of little references to news articles that appear at my blog, which is a news aggregation blog on energy and climate change. It's called geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. However, I put up about 15 articles on a typical day, and I present about 3 of them for each day here. So you'd have to search for an article. You'd have to find it on the calendar at the blog. You can go down on the page. If you can go down on the page, I should say, on this page, you could go down and find a link, which is a tiny URL link to Energy Week 610, and that will take you to a website that has just the stories dealt with on the blog. It has a photograph for everyone, a synopsis for everyone, and a link to the original. And whether you get it from my website or from that site, which is just for Energy Week, you can read the original article. Some of these articles are long, some of them are not. In general, the ones that come from Clean Technica are very often long. The ones that come from Renews are very often quite short. We're going to start off this particular show with an article in Vermont Business Magazine, which is about Encore Renewable Energy. And there is a picture of an Encore Renewable Energy solar project in Heartland, Vermont. The title of the article is Encore Renewable Energy Secures $389 million of financing to advance solar energy and energy storage. Encore Renewable Energy, a leading renewable energy company, announced closing a $389 million financing package from Brookfield. This transaction will accelerate Encore's growth as an independent power producer. Now, I should say here, Brookfield is Brookfield Asset Management. Encore Renewable Energy is a certified B Corp in Vermont, and is in this case looking at growth that involves whatever it can do, which is mostly going to be solar and storage being battery storage. And that will be, I believe, in Vermont. It's kind of hard to imagine anybody securing $389 million for something going on in Vermont, but that's what they did. Okay, we're at a piece here by Clean Technica. The title of this piece is, in the Netherlands, 31% of Tesla owners consider selling their cars because of Elon Musk. And we have a picture of an otherwise empty, other than logos and the name Tesla and so forth. There's a couple of photographs of cars on the right, and there is some merchandise in the back on the right side. But that's a pretty empty photograph, and I'm not sure why. Elon Musk has gone from far right-wing conspiracy theories to doing what looked like a full-on Nazi salute twice. A Dutch pension fund, one of the biggest in the world, sold its Tesla shares because of this, apparently. And it did sell its Tesla shares, according to the article, but I think that was in reaction. And many Dutch Tesla owners want to sell their cars. I don't think Elon Musk or people who support Nazi ideology realize how offensive that is to how many people. And the Nazis were cruel, not just to Jews in Holland, but to people in Holland and Norway and Denmark, and I can name a bunch of countries. Greece, Russia. You just go through a list of countries, and the Nazis didn't really do very much. When I was very young, I had an acquaintance who had actually been in the Hitler Youth. Obviously not my age. She was considerably older, but she told me that they were very enthusiastic. And the reason why they were very enthusiastic was because they had been cheated by the Versailles Treaty. They had given up the war in the hope of getting good treatment from the Allies, and they didn't. They got exactly the reverse from most countries. The United States was sending food to Germany because Germans were starving. But when the ships got to Germany, the French wouldn't allow the food off the ships. And this is just one of many things that went on and on. The Nazis were in a situation where they were picking up from governments that had hyperinflation, and hyperinflation was so bad that women were showing up to their husbands' employers at noon every day to get paid before the wages they got for the day had inflated to the point where they would be getting less, and their wages were adjusted every day. And that was taken care of, not by the Nazis, but the Nazis did take care of employment problems and things like that. And people thought that they were going to elevate them to the point where Germany was going to be a great country again. And Germany at the end of that war was not exactly a great country. I was in Germany in 1962, and the mess that was created in Dortmund, where I was still all over the place. I stayed for about a week in an apartment in Dortmund, and the building block opposite was completely bombed out, and there was a building down the street that I don't know how tall it was, but it was above the third floor. It was completely bombed. The roof was just a flat roof that was put up on a temporary basis probably more than 10 years before, probably at least 15 years before, and people were living in it. Germany was a mess in some places in 1962. And this is what people remember. Now, in the United States, people didn't have that experience, but they should understand that right-wing salutes and support of right-wing political groups is not going to win, in my opinion, worthwhile political support. just political support that's willing to cheat, hurt people, whatever. I'm sorry, I should go on. And I'm going to go to this, which is the Mersey Tidal Project picture. This is from a publication called Offshore Energy. The title is Locals Voice Overwhelmingly Positive Support for Mersey Tidal Power Project. The Mersey River, which goes through Liverpool, is a river that is in an area of the world with high tides. It constitutes a big estuary with a fairly narrow mouth. So you could build something that would capture energy from that. Let me read the synopsis for this. The Mersey Tidal Power Project aims to expand the UK's renewable energy capacity. Between October 1st and November 15th, 2024, a consultation gathered 3,039 responses, with 92% supporting increased renewable energy generation in the Liverpool City region. Now, this project is going to be a big project, and it's going to cost, I don't remember what the cost is. I think it was 10 billion pounds or $10 billion or something. But it was going to be expensive and not trivial, and people are supporting it. And the way this tidal thing works is when the tide is coming in, it turns turbines in the in direction. The tide stops coming in and the turbines stop, so the electricity produced by the turbines is reduced, very much reduced for a period of time. It stops altogether for a short period of time, then it starts up going in the opposite direction. A project like this would have to have some sort of battery backup so that the output could be continuous, but it is predictable. This kind of resource is going to operate in a large way, predictably, twice every day, in each direction. In, out, every 12 hours, in, out. And it's going to be going the overwhelming majority of the time. So it can be an important project. Okay, our next item is and this is, we're up to Friday, January 31st, from Environment and Energy Leader. We have the title of the project, of the item. These are, by the way, these are wind turbines being built, and if you look, 3/4 of the way across this picture to the right, a quarter, perhaps the fourth turbine from the right-hand side of the screen. You can see the crane next to the turbine as they're putting things up, and other turbines farther to the right from that are being worked on. Texas, renewable energy boom, a $50 billion economic engine. With over 46,500 megawatts, that's a lot, that's 46.5 gigawatts of installed wind power, 27,210 megawatts of solar capacity, and nearly 10,000 megawatts of energy storage, Texas is now leading the nation in clean energy deployment. Its projects are proving to be a financial windfall for communities across the state, and you'd better believe there are a lot of Republicans in Texas who understand this, who understand that it is the reason the grid didn't fail in the heat last summer. So it's an indication that the support for renewable energy is something that's happening on both sides of the political spectrum. Now, we have an item from Renews, and a picture of a wind farm What an amazing thing that we'd have a picture of a wind farm. That is a wind farm from Goldwind, and that wind farm, I believe, is in China. Don't remember exactly where it is. Chinese turbine exports to surge to 100 gigawatts. Chinese wind turbine exports are expected to grow from just under 10 gigawatts 12 years ago to more than 100 gigawatts in the next decade. According to data from analyst Brinkham, Brinkham did the analysis leading to that conclusion. Goldwind and Envision are expected to dominate exports of Chinese onshore wind turbines between 2024 and 2034. And wind energy is just one place where China is dominating energy in the world today. They dominate electric cars. They dominate electric buses. They sell electric buses have become so important that, as I understand it, the majority of buses sold worldwide the majority of electric buses sold worldwide each year are electric. Electric buses cost less than conventional diesel buses if you don't include the cost of the battery. Leasing a battery and charging it is less expensive than buying diesel fuel for diesel buses. Electric buses are easier to maintain and have lower costs. There's no reason to buy a diesel-powered bus in most parts of the world. There are places where it might still be there might still be a reason to buy a diesel-powered bus, but we don't all live in northern Alaska. So, you know, that's what that is. Okay, we have an item from EcoStrum Info and a picture here of the Yalern Power Station, which is a coal-burning power plant. By the way, you can tell that this is a coal-burning plant because it has two smokestacks. The one on the left has two flues. The one on the right, it's kind of hard to tell. But the one on the left, probably has a scrubber in it, so they're taking particulate matter and other pollution out of the system. And between those two rather thin, tall smokestacks, the thick, slightly shorter ones are not smokestacks. They're cooling towers. Between those two, you can see conveyor belts angling up from the ground level to these two buildings, and that is an indication that this is a coal-burning plant. Also, in the foreground, there's a lot of coal on the ground. The title of the article is "Renewable Energy Hits Record Highs as Coal Power Drops Below 50% in Australia." Renewable energy reached a record 46% of Australia's electricity supply in late 2024. Coal-fired generation dipped below half for the first time as outages and rising demand sent electricity prices soaring. Solar and wind output hit record highs. Solar and wind output hit record highs because they were cheaper than coal. What's happening here is that the capacity factor is you can think of it as a percentage of the time that a power plant is operating at full output. For coal, that might be 50%. I think higher much of the time. I'm thinking that in the United States, coal has a capacity factor that might be 65%. Nuclear in the United States is above 90%. In the rest of the world, it's a little below 90%. Solar, the capacity factor might be 10% or 15%, depending upon how much of the day the sun is shining in an area. In some places, it might be 25%. Wind power, onshore, maybe 35%. Offshore, 35 to 55%, maybe 40 to 55%. Offshore wind has a capacity factor that is similar to coal and natural gas. But what's happening in Australia is the capacity factor of coal is dropping because the coal generators are not used all the time. And when they are not used all the time, they are inefficient. So basically what we're seeing is coal-fired electricity in Australia in a death spiral. Okay. We have a picture of, we're up to Saturday, February 1st, of a wind turbine. I don't know where this is. There are animals that look like they may be grazing out in a snowy field. But there is the wind turbine. That wind turbine is quite distant compared to the animals, and it's big. This article comes from Euractiv, and its title is "Study Doubles EU Wind Power Potential." A report found substantially higher onshore wind potential in Europe, as some countries' potential doubles. France and Spain could generate enough electricity equivalent to the EU's projected 2050 demand of about 4,000 terawatt hours. The modeling by the bloc's researchers at JRC found. Now, what this means is that the amount of wind energy that can be counted on if wind turbines are put up in the EU is significantly higher than what they thought it was in the past. And that should make a difference in thinking going forward. Okay, we have another item. This is an interesting picture, I think. This is arrival of first major components complete with a word that's misspelled. This is from Renews, and I'm not going to blame Renews for the fact that arrival is misspelled. The title of the article is "First Major Components Arrive for 105 Megawatt Wind Farm." The first major components for the 105 Fasikan wind farm in Sweden have arrived at Sundsvall Harbor. Construction work at the wind farm project has been going on since last year. Arise, the construction manager, said the delivery of the components marked, quote, "a key milestone," end quote. Now, that thing that you're seeing there, I think that's actually a ship, not a barge. It looks like it's got a structure that would include a bridge on the top at the back end, but I could be wrong. It might be a barge. Nevertheless, it's got a lot of wind turbine blades on it, and those were the components that arrived. I don't know how many blades there are on that ship. There could be 40. Now, this offshore wind farm has, I'm sorry, it's not an offshore wind farm. The wind farm has 15 turbines, each with a capacity of 7 megawatts, and 15 turbines would indicate 45 blades. So that what you see there might actually be a shipment that has all of the blades with five of them stored out of sight. I don't know. It might be that it's a shipment that includes almost all the blades, but there it is. They have arrived, and that I do think that is a very interesting photograph. All right, now we're going to something which isn't a photograph. And Atlantic Shores. This article is from Clean Technica. The title is U.S. Offshore Developer Set to Fight Trump. Atlantic Shores began life as a 50-50 joint venture of EDF and Shell. Now Shell has dropped out, but EDF intends to forge ahead with a 2.8 gigawatt of offshore wind energy in New Jersey. And it may have the resources to wage a battle over the legal authority of Trump's offshore wind shutdown. So Donald Trump issued an executive order shutting down offshore wind farms that had not been. I don't know exactly what the shutdown includes or doesn't include, but my understanding is the shutdown does not cover wind farms that are already being built, and I'm not sure where they make that distinction. They are not offering new wind farm areas up for bidding, so we don't know. But it's interesting to me that EDF is willing to fight the fight to get this wind farm built. Now, it's going to be a valuable project. It's going to be 2.8 gigawatts, and it should have a capacity factor of 0.5 or 50%, possibly more probably a little less. But we are up to February 2nd, which is Sunday. We have a picture of wind turbines in China, and this article is from oilprice.com. The title is China Hits Clean Energy Goal 6 years ahead of schedule. A record pace of installations of solar and wind power in recent years helped China achieve its 2030 renewable energy capacity target 6 years early. In 2020, China set the goal to have at least 1,200 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity by 2030. And China has already hit that target. Oilprice.com is a well-known medium publisher, if you will. And I think the information that comes from oilprice.com is generally accurate. I want to point out oilprice.com, despite its name, is not about oil price, and it doesn't even favor fossil fuels. Some people have said it does, but different authors there have different ideas, and they are allowed to express them. Okay, now we are at a point where we can look at this. That is an aluminum ingot. The article comes from i-hls.com. The title is New Aluminum Ion Battery Offers Promising Solution for Renewable Energy. Researchers have developed an innovative aluminum ion battery that not only offers enhanced safety and recyclability, but also delivers exceptional longevity through well over 10,000 charge-discharge cycles, making it a contender for large-scale energy storage applications. This is one of a bunch of storage technologies, battery technologies, that are being promoted for upcoming energy storage. This particular item, as I understand it, is like some others, uses a lot of space. And batteries that are large are not going to fit into smartphones or even electric vehicles. You're not going to fly planes with these things. But they do store energy for the grid. And this is one of many technologies. Sodium ion is another, which actually might be used in cars. Another one is the iron air batteries and other metal air batteries and so forth. And then we've got other gravity storage and things like that. Tom Fennell loved gravity storage. He seemed to think that was quite fun. In gravity storage, you use electricity when there's an excess of it to take train cars loaded with stone, typically, up a track going up a mountain. And when the electricity is needed again, you allow them to come down the mountain. As they do that, they can generate electricity. So this is a storage system. Okay, we have an item from, well, this picture is the Xpeng Mona M03. The article comes from Clean Technica. Xpeng sales up 238% in January. Xpeng had quite a good year in 2024, but 2025 is entering with fireworks that make the 2024 results look like sparklers. Xpeng's January 2025 sales were 238% higher than its January sales of the year before. With 30,350 deliveries, this is the third month in a row that Xpeng sales were greater than 30,000. Now, I'm going to put that picture up. That is an Xpeng M03 and a fuzzy image. I don't know why it's fuzzy, but it is. I want to point something out about this. There are certain things that are flags for me. One of them is efficiency. When we talk about efficiency, we really don't know what we mean unless we know what we mean. That is to say, if you're going to hear a figure for efficiency, like the efficiency of a wind turbine or the efficiency of an electric motor versus a diesel engine or whatever, comparing these things doesn't make any sense unless you know what the basis of the comparison is. I once had a conversation with an engineer from Vermont Yankee, and I said, "What is the efficiency of your power plant?" And he said it's about 35%. But that is the efficiency of thermal power plants. It has nothing to do with a nuclear reactor. And I said, "No, I think the efficiency of your power plant is less than 1%. And he chuckled and said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you only use about 2% of the fuel. And out of that 2%, you get 35% efficiency because you're a thermal plant. That means with all that fuel, you're only getting something less than 1% of the energy that's in it." And he kind of said, "Yeah, if you want to take it that way, that's true." That low efficiency of nuclear power is at the center of a big problem, which is the amount of waste that nuclear plants produce. They use 2% of the fuel, and 98% of what they put into that plant comes out as waste. That is to say, 98% of the radioactive materials. And the waste is contaminated with radioactive materials that the plant produced in the process of making energy, and that uranium has a fairly long half-life, but the things that they're pulling out of the plant have really short half-lives, which means that they can really hurt a person. Can't use them for making energy, but you can hurt a person. But another flag that I have is percentages. In this case, 238%. I remember a fellow who was in a state of total outrage during the gas crisis in the early 1970s, saying, this company, and he was pointing to a company with its headquarters looked like they had been in a building that had an apartment over a barber shop or something like this. Was not a big operation, but he said their profits are up 750%. And I thought, what a terrible thing to say. If their profit was 1 cent and it went to 8.5 cents, it was up 750%. We don't know that they were making enough money to survive at 750% increase. For that matter, what would you call it if they had been losing money and now they're making money? Percentages, you don't know unless you know. And what he should have said is, last year they made thus and such amount of profit, net profit, out of thus and such amount of sales, and now they're at this level of profit from that level of sales. That might have made sense. Excuse me. Okay. We're up to Monday, February 3rd. We have a picture of a wind farm, offshore wind farm. And this is from Renews. The title of the article is Yunlin Reaches Full Power. Skyborn Renewables and its partners in Yuneng Wind Power have achieved full power on the 640 megawatt Yunlin offshore wind farm off Taiwan. All 80 of the 8 megawatt Siemens Gamesa turbines have been installed and are producing electricity that is contributing to the country's transition to sustainable energy future. The people in Taiwan are constantly threatened with invasion by China, and have been since the end of the Chinese Revolution, which was finished after the Second World War ended, but not very long after. And China has been threatening to invade Taiwan for a very long time. I don't know what would happen if they did it now, because I don't know that the American government would want to confront them about that. Maybe they would. Maybe, this would be seen as a way to get something. But nevertheless, 640 megawatts is a fair amount. As I have said earlier in the show, the capacity factor of offshore wind can be as high as 55%, where one source I looked at said that the capacity factor of coal and gas is typically 50%. I don't know that that's actually true. I think coal and gas have capacity factors that are more like 65 or 70% in the United States. But capacity factors in other parts of the world tend to be lower than they are in the United States. Now, we have an item from Clean Technica. This is very interesting to me. This is a Neoliner cargo ship. The title is More Wind Energy Heading to the United States One Way or the Other. The U.S. offshore wind industry is facing some serious blowback from the White House, but President Trump is powerless to stop another form of wind energy from arriving on American shores. The cargo shipping industry is rediscovering wind-assisted propulsion, and that is, I think that's a kind of a pretty ship. It's got rigid sails, And that is a very different kind of thing from what has been used on ships in the past. One thing that I notice about this picture is I'm pretty sure this picture is not a photograph. This ship is leaving a fair amount of wake, and it is upright. And I don't know that it should be upright if the wind is really blowing. But, you know, in a rendering, you can do anything. You can either even have the sails on a ship in front of the masts and have the wind coming from in front so that the ship would go backwards. I saw that on a painting once. And I felt sad for the artist who had made that particular mistake. Okay, here we come to an item from Renews. And this picture is the Catalan solar plant in California. And I want to explain something here. The solar panels in this are black. It's kind of difficult to make out any features in those solar panels. The edges of the solar panels on the ends of the line of panels are sort of visible. But the panels in this picture are basically black. And the reason is because those are monocrystalline panels, which are black. That's just the way they are. The title of the article is EDF. Oops, sorry. I've got too many mice. EDF starts up solar storage plant. EDF Renewables North America and Power Sustainable Energy Infrastructure have achieved commercial operation at a 300 megawatt solar storage project in California. The Desert Quartzite project includes 150 megawatts, a 150 megawatt 4-hour battery system. It has been delivered to Clean Power Alliance. I should explain. When you have a battery, it is very often a battery system. It is very often, the capacity is very often expressed in terms of watts, in this case megawatts, and megawatt hours, which can be expressed as megawatt hours or a number of hours. In this case, it is 150 megawatts, 4 hours. That would also could be expressed as 150 megawatts, 600 megawatt hours. I know that because 150 times 4 is 600. What that means is it will output a maximum of 150 megawatts for a maximum of 4 hours if that maximum of 150 megawatts is maintained. However, it doesn't have to put out 150 megawatts. It could put out 50 megawatts, in which case that 4-hour figure is going to become 12 hours, because you've cut the original one by 2/3. You multiply the other by 3. I'm getting very confused. You have cut the original one by 2/3 to 1/3 of what it was. So you multiply the other one by 3. Cut by 1/3, multiply by 3. Or if you were producing 1 megawatt from that, you could do it for 150 hours. Don't allow these figures to get, these designations to get confusing. The project includes a 150 megawatt battery with 4 hours of battery capacity. Okay, the monocrystalline solar panels, by the way, are more efficient than more space efficient. That again, you know, we're talking about efficiency here. Does this mean that they produce from the sun more electricity? No, this means that you can get the same amount of electricity out of a smaller space. They are more space efficient and they work better in warm weather. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, February 4th. We have an item from Tech Explore and a picture of wind turbines. Electricity prices across Europe will stabilize if 2030 targets for renewable energy are met, according to a study. Hitting the current national 2030 quotas for solar and wind energy could reduce the volatility of electric markets by an average of 20% across 29 European countries, according to a new study from the University of Cambridge. This did not surprise me at all. The outages in Germany, as Germany has put on more and more renewable energy onto its grids, the average length of outage per customer has gone down per year. Germany was far better than the United States when it was not reliant on renewable energy basically at all. And the average customer had 15 minutes of downtime per year. After a lot of renewable energy was added, this is a number of years ago, they found that the downtime had dropped from 15 minutes to 5 minutes. So the idea of saying, oh, the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing, we're not going to be able to watch television, it's not true. It's not based on actual performance. Actual performances, if you're dependent on the sun or the wind for a large part of your electricity, you're probably going to have fewer downtimes. And in fact, one of the things when I started my blog, one of the things that I learned very early on was when thermal plants like coal burning plants, nuclear plants and so forth go down, the price of electricity goes through the roof in ways that are shocking. I saw an article about 2012, 2013, a coal burning plant in Australia had suddenly and unexpectedly gone down in a place that was fairly remote and dependent heavily on that plant. And the cost of electricity went from $65 per megawatt hour to $12,000 per megawatt hour in the course of about 2 minutes. And during that time, the cost of electricity was extremely high, but the time didn't last. It dropped to about $2,000 per megawatt hour after 5 minutes, and after an hour it had dropped to below $1,000, but it had been 65. And I remember that during the outages in Texas, there were people who had opted to buy their power at whatever the going rate was. And some of them got bills for the time of a snowstorm in Texas that were thousands of dollars because they were dependent on whoever was putting electricity onto the grid. Okay. Our next item is from Renews. This is a picture of work going on a wind turbine. The wind turbine, I believe, is not the exact turbine that we're talking about. It might be, I'm not sure, but I believe it is not. The title of this is Senvion Partners with Wooden Blade Outfit. I'm sorry, I think it is. I was thinking that this was a different article. Indian turbine maker Senvion has joined forces with Germany's Wooden Blade technology to develop and manufacture wooden wind turbine blades, starting with Senvion's 4.2 megawatt wind turbine platform. The partnership builds on Wudin's success with prototype wooden blades in Germany in 2024. That's probably a picture of the prototype in 2024. We've seen wind turbine blades occasionally fracture while the turbine is in use. We saw that happening off the coast of Massachusetts. A couple of wind turbines fell apart. After that, there was a wind turbine in Germany. It's not a common problem, but it does happen. I don't know why. I don't know the list of all of the reasons why wooden blades would be better than the fiberglass blades that are generally used. But structurally, there are a number of reasons why wooden blades, or partly wooden blades, would have a level of superiority. It's just one of those things where people are doing their research and trying to find out the best way to do things. Okay, we have an item from Clean Technica and a picture of the Grand Coulee Dam, which was built before I came into being. The problem and potential of hydropower is the title. What about hydropower? Some 6% of the American electricity comes from hydropower, and it accounted for about 27% of electricity generated from utility-scale renewable sources in 2023. What environmental impact did the Grand Coulee Dam have when it first blocked off the Columbia River in 1938? I have a bunch of notes on this. First of all, a coulee is an area where water flows. It can be a river, it can be a number of other things, a creek, a number of things. The word apparently comes from French. Grand Coulee is a specific area of the Columbia River. The Grand Coulee Dam is the largest in the United States with a nameplate capacity of 6,809 megawatts. It cut off a fishery with 10 million salmon annually. There are ways of dealing with that today. This is I'm gonna put that Grand Coulee Dam up so you can see it. This is a problem. And I should point out, you can't just willy-nilly take dams down, because very often they have a lot of pollution in the area of settled, in the area where the water is held behind them in the reservoirs. At the bottoms of the reservoirs, there can be settlements of pollution. So you don't want to take a dam down necessarily. You might want to keep it up just to keep that pollution under control. But the hydropower is a problem, and it can be useful if it's put in a way that is thoughtful. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, February 5th. And we have the Vale Solar Power Station, PC Magazine International. Spain deploys 6.46 gigawatts of new solar in 2024. In 2024, Spain installed 6.64 gigawatts of PV systems, a slight increase from the 5.59 gigawatts in 2023. Slight, yes, it's an increase of over a gigawatt. According to the grid operator, the country's total installed PV capacity reached 32 gigawatts at the end of 2024. Authorities also permitted 13 storage projects in the year. So in Spain, in the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, there's a lot of motion going ahead for renewable energy. Okay. ABC News provided us with this article. LA wildfires highlight U.S. insurance crisis as homeowners try to recover lost homes. A growing crisis in U.S. home insurance is in the spotlight as Californians begin the long road to rebuilding from wildfires. The number of residential policies issued under the state's FAIR plan, FAIR is an acronym, doubled between 2020 and 2024, but it's a bare bones coverage. Bare bones, what does that mean? If your house burns down, you can get money to help you rebuild. But that money is only going to help. It's not going to do the job. That's bare bones. So a lot of people, there's probably going to be a lot of houses that never get rebuilt because it's expensive to do it. Okay, our last item is from Environment America, and let me put this picture up. Here we see solar panels with sheep under them. This is like a lot of other pictures that we've seen. The title is How Solar and Sheep Can Support Each Other. Grazing sheep with solar panels which help ensure plant growth doesn't block the solar panels, that is to say, which, in this case being sheep, is the latest example. It's not the latest example, it's an early example, and this is just the latest story about it. But it's what they're calling the latest example of how solar power can deliver significant financial benefits to farmers. A study out of Western University shows how solar is good for farmland and local ecosystems. Well, I could have told you that. But, you know, that's the way things are. The sheep like, well, I'll put this picture back up again. The sheep are congregating there because they like being in the shade sometimes. It happens that a lot of the grass that sheep graze on, and this is just conventional grass, seeds of which have been around for many years, a lot of that grass will grow just as well in shade as it will out in the full sun. Some plants grow better in shade, including some plants that farmers grow for food for human beings. There's a lot of potential for agrivoltaics, and you know, we could get a lot of food and electricity out of the same field around the country. So that is the final story. There we go. That's the final story. And I'm wishing everybody have a gloriously picturesque week. So next time, hopefully, Nancy Wolf will be here. And until that time comes, I hope you have a gloriously picturesque week and that it is a good week to live through with a lot of good coming to you. So I'll say goodbye, and I hope you come back next time. Bye-bye.